So we are going to get into the 6-month postpartum Q&A, and this is going to kind of be a little bit of a wrap up of the last 6 months, but also just kind of focusing on getting to this point. So I do have blog posts that are Elise's and myself's postpartum updates. So I think I have 1 month and then like a 2-3 month and then up to 4 months, and then I didn't do any other individual ones. And I also just want to let you know, anything that I talk about in this video, I'm going to be linking on my blog, which I will have at the top, and then I'll also link it in stories. So everything that I mention will be there for you to refer back to. So I'm having my coffee now, but you might be watching this at night, so maybe you're having a cocktail or some tea or something like that. So I hope that this video helps and maybe can give you a little bit more of an insight into what it takes getting to this point, which for me, I feel like is, well, it's the halfway point, but it's also kind of like I can breathe. And I know a lot of you agree with that too. So I also just want to say that thank you. I want to say thank you because I feel like much of what I'm sharing is hopefully helpful for you, but I don't think you guys know the impact that you sharing with me has on my journey. It can be a lonely journey having kids, and whether it's going from 0 to 1 or 1 to 2 or more, it's lonely at times when you're doing it because you're the mom. And as much as your partner might be helping, whether it's with feeding or changing or anything, you're the one healing. You're the one changing. You're changing all through pregnancy. You're changing all through postpartum. Your mind's changing. Your body's changing. Your emotions are all over the place. Your hormones are going crazy. So I just really want to say thank you guys, because I don't know if my experience would have been as fulfilling as it was and sharing all of the stuff I'm sharing without you guys. Because if you didn't send me your messages and, you know, give me your words of advice and words of encouragement, I would have had a harder time, I think. And I did have a hard time at points, but I feel like getting to the 6-month mark was so much more enjoyable with all of you, and I just can't say thank you enough. All right, so I have the questions in front of me, and these were the most asked questions from when I asked a couple weeks ago. So I'm going to go through them, and this is the reason why I wanted to do the IGTV, because it would have been way too long in stories. And I just want to let you know, if you have a specific question that you want the answer to, you can skip ahead by scrolling at the bottom. So there's a little dot with a bar. And if you're like, I don't want to listen to the answer to this question, or you just don't have time and you want to skip ahead, you can slide the little slider and go ahead in the video. So just like with stories, you can skip past, in the IGTV, you can do the same. You can also come back to it because it'll be saved on my IGTV little page, which I'll show you guys in stories. So it'll just be there for you guys. Something on me. Whenever you need to refer back to it. I'm answering these questions while my phone is propped up in a little jar of crayons because my tripod is like too high. So the height that I needed it at, I have a ceramic house stacked with a ceramic jar with crayons inside of it, holding my camera. Mom life, right? Okay, so the first question is recovery for me in general for these first 6 months, the difference between the C-section and the VBAC, because I had a C-section with Cameron. You can read his birth story there and why I had the C-section on my blog. I will also link that in my stories. And I had a solid 3 years pretty much between Cameron and Elise. And right after I had Cameron, and I could get my head above water, I kind of knew the next time around, whenever that would be, I would definitely want to attempt to have a vaginal birth. It's just a preference. I just wanted to try. I wasn't set on it. If I had to have another C-section, that would have been perfectly fine. That's just something that I wanted to try to do. My doctor gave me the approval, and because of my C-section and the reasons for it, the next time I got pregnant and was able to talk about a birth plan, my doctor had agreed that it would be okay because the reasons for my C-section were just that my labor wasn't progressing, in a nutshell. And now for a little Elise update. So she is almost 6 months, not quite, a couple more days, but she is just a ball of personality now, and I feel like this is such the sweet spot. At least for me, I feel like the 4 to 6 month mark and even like 6 to 9 months is so awesome because they're not really moving yet. They're still in one spot, and you can put them down and maybe they'll move a couple inches from shimmying around, but otherwise they're able to stay where you put them. But they're really fun and they're starting to make noises, and it's so funny to see the difference between Elise and Cameron, because Cameron was very active even at this age, and always wanted to be like looking around, and Elise does too, but she's much more content, but she's very like looks through you with her eyes. Like, it's just funny because Cameron was always all over the place, looking around, moving, didn't want to be still. Like, we could never use one of those little play yard things with him to like keep him confined, because he would just stand at the gate and like look around and want to get out and cry. But with Elise, like, she's content on her play mat and she loves looking up at the little mobile, and all she wants is for you to talk to her. Like, all she wants is eye contact, and she's a little bit more emotional than him. Like, I was singing to her the other night, and if you've seen those videos of babies getting emotional when you sing to them or they hear a song, that's exactly how she was. I was singing You Are My Sunshine. I just always sang that to her when I was pregnant and then afterwards. And I was singing it to her last night, and she just got that lip quiver and she just started crying, like an emotional cry, not like an upset cry. And it was like the craziest thing, because I was like, wow, she's really like emotional and has like a lot of feelings and stuff. And Cameron was never like that. So she is doing great. She, like I said, is not sleeping through the night, but that's okay. She is eating about every 3 hours. She's taking about 3 naps a day. They're getting kind of messed up though, because I have to bring Cameron to school in the morning. So she's sleeping for about an hour in the morning, maybe an hour and a half, but it's broken up a lot of the time. And then she's taking a solid nap anywhere between 12:30 and 1:30 for about 2 hours, depending on when she sleeps in the morning. And then again, depending on when she sleeps in the afternoon, she'll either take a late day nap, like around 4:30, or she'll go to bed earlier. So like, if she takes a nap at 4:30, she'll go to bed at like 7. But if she skips and doesn't take that nap because her second nap is later, she'll go to bed sometimes at like 6:30 or even 6 o'clock. So it just really depends. I'm not stressed about it. I don't put pressure on myself. I just follow her cues. And if she seems sleepy, I put her down. If she seems hungry, I feed her. So we're just kind of going with the flow and trying our best, because having 2 kids is not easy all the time. So now the next question is about hair loss. So I've talked a little bit about this, but I haven't touched on it a lot because I don't really think I've had a ton of hair loss where I'm like missing chunks or anything like that, which I know some people will lose a lot of it and have like chunks missing and things like that. So I just didn't feel like qualified to really talk a lot about it because I wasn't experiencing like a great amount of loss, but I definitely did lose a lot, like just in the front pretty much. Like you can kind of see like this, it's almost like, it's like a weird I can't think of the word. Wow, mom brain. It's like a weird part, kind of like almost like I used to have hair here and now it's not. So, I mean, it's easily covered and stuff like that. But I did get like a shampoo that had biotin in it. But I would definitely recommend like researching and seeing if there's anything or other moms that have gone through more hair loss. And that being said, I think my hair loss has slowed down from what it was, but my hair has always kind of fallen out. Like even when I'm not pregnant or postpartum, like my hair has always kind of fallen out a good amount in the drain and stuff like that. And I have fine hair. So, I would suggest maybe looking like online and seeing if anybody has any suggestions, but I think it's just something that kind of has to run its course in terms of postpartum. And we all get that awkward, weird hair growth back where you get like the little like wings coming out, or like behind I'll have wings and stuff like that. So I definitely had a little bit, but I feel like it's just kind of got to run its course, and I don't have like too many suggestions. The next question is, somebody asked if I am on birth control, and they also said, is that too personal? And for me, no, it's not. I mean, maybe some people would think it's too personal, but I share pretty much everything on here with you guys. So I am not on any birth control, and I will never probably go back on a synthetic hormone birth control, and that's just a personal preference. I definitely encourage you to do your own research if you're wondering if you should go on something. I've had really bad experiences on like the pill and stuff like that, and I just don't want to really go back to that. So either down the road, maybe I will get my tubes tied, or Jeff will get a vasectomy or something like that. But as of right now, we are not. I mean, we'll do something, obviously, but nothing. Baby sleep. I had a bunch of baby sleep questions, and I feel like this is always a big topic when you bring your baby home, and it's definitely in the first 6 months, because usually doctors recommend like sleep training 4 to 6 months or whatever, but nowadays there's things that you can do when you bring the baby home and kind of get them all into that. I did not focus on a routine or schedule or any kind of sleep training until Elise was like over 3 months. And then, as you guys know, I took a lot of you along on our 3 to 4 month challenge, as in like we were having problems with her just being up nonstop, and I was at my wit's end, and you're exhausted and you're just ready to do something. So I took the Taking Care of Babies 3 to 4 month course, and that did help. But that being said, every baby is different. Elise really took to it and took to the steps that were very minimal to really get her to soothe herself and kind of get into a routine. We didn't do the 5 month and beyond course because I don't feel like we need it. But that being said, she still wakes up in the night. I don't expect my babies to sleep through the night the first year. Cameron wasn't like that, and he's an amazing sleeper now. And Elise still gets up, I would say, on average 2 times a night on a good night. And I do nurse her both times just because it's easier, honestly. It puts her right back to sleep, and I don't care if that's not the right thing to do. It works. And I did that with Cameron, and he started sleeping through the night like right around the 8-9 month mark, and now he sleeps great. Like, he barely wakes up in the night. So it's what works for us. This is a question that I think is so important to ask people in general, but also new moms, or moms in general, parents in general. And that is, somebody asked, how are you doing? And I just think that's such a profound question in parenthood when you know somebody who has kids, because a lot of times the focus is on the kids, and especially after birth, the focus is on the baby for the most part. But the parents are struggling too, and especially with postpartum depression and postpartum anxiety. If you know somebody who has recently had a baby, ask them genuinely how they're doing, because maybe they won't want to talk about it, but more than likely they'll want to talk about it and say, you know, I had a shitty day, or, oh my God, the baby is not sleeping. I'm going to lose my freaking mind. Or my nipples hurt so bad that I just want to give up and stop breastfeeding. There's more than likely something that's going to come out of that question that person needs to talk about. And so, how am I doing now? Great. I feel like I've gotten into a rhythm, and I feel like I'm kind of on the other side of things, or at least getting to the other side of things. I feel like the first 6 months are the most profound and the hardest in bringing your baby home. But that being said, I would say at like the 2-3 month mark, I wasn't okay. I was having anxiety. I wasn't sleeping. We had all gotten really sick back in December. And so I was just losing my mind, I felt like, at night. And I was like so happy that I had a baby, but also like, what did I do? And I don't know if anybody else feels that way, but sometimes after you have a baby, you have this like split second feeling of like, what did I get myself into? So yeah, I'm doing great now. And I think it's okay to know if you're not doing okay, that you can get help and you can talk to people about it, because it's really common to not be okay after you have your baby. Another question having to do with the VBAC was, someone asked, would I do it again? 100% I would do it again. And I know it's not something that everybody gets the option to do, and it's not something everybody wants to do, and that's totally fine. But 100% I would do it again. The birth was pretty much the same experience at first as with my C-section. Like, things were starting to stall, but then the ball started rolling, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm at 10 centimeters. Like, what? I didn't think my body could get to it, honestly, because with the C-section, I had stalled at 5, and I just was like, maybe my body is one of those bodies that just doesn't progress. I don't know. So without a shadow of doubt, I would do it. So the recovery was very different in many ways, but also similar. So I'll kind of go through that quickly. So the most obvious reason for a better recovery with the vaginal birth was I didn't have surgery. So after the C-section, I couldn't even walk. Jeff had to basically lift me in and out of the bed. There was so much pain down below because you're getting cut open and the baby's being taken that way. So that was a lot harder, but it was also my first birth, and I just didn't know what to expect. So the second time around, I knew if I had to have a C-section, kind of what to expect, but also with a vaginal birth, I knew I wouldn't be in as much pain, but I was still in a lot of pain just because you're pushing a baby out of your vagina. And so the differences were, of course, with the vaginal birth, I had to do like the padsicles, which are just the pads with like aloe vera and witch hazel. And I also I had much more bleeding. With the C-section, I still had bleeding, which I didn't know. When you have a C-section, you'll still bleed out of your vagina. But with the vaginal birth, it was longer bleeding. Like, I bled more for the better part of 4 weeks, and I was switching my pad a lot more and all of that, but it still did hurt to get up. I didn't need Jeff to lift me, and I was definitely walking around in the hospital pretty much like, I gave birth in the morning at like 7ish, and I was pretty much walking around by 11 o'clock in the morning. So that part was much easier and much different. At home, there was still a lot of care that needed to be done with the vaginal birth. Okay, so this mug. The next question is about how long will I breastfeed? If I'm breastfeeding, how long will I breastfeed? All of that. So I am currently breastfeeding, and Elise is pretty much exclusively breastfed, which just means that she's just breastfeeding. I'm not really giving her a bottle. The only time I give her a bottle is when Jeff is with her and I'm out, or if I'm not around. So like this past weekend when my mom was watching her, I had to pump for about a week and a half and save it. And then obviously she got the bottle. So I plan to breastfeed for a year probably. That's what I did with Cameron. But a big piece of advice I would say is, if you want to breastfeed, and I just told my best friend this because she's pregnant, is set realistic short goals. Don't say, I'm going to breastfeed for a year, and hold yourself to it, because you might not want to. It might be harder. You might have like issues. So set realistic goals. Maybe say, okay, I want to really breastfeed for 2 months. If you get to 2 months, okay, I'm going to do it for another month. Okay, I'm going to do it for 6 months. Like, set those realistic goals. And I think that's really helpful. And I'm going to be honest, this time around, like, I like breastfeeding, but I'm not like, I love it. I don't know. I am happy that I can do it, and I feel grateful that I can do it. And believe me, I don't take that for granted. And I do like the bond, but I'm not one of those people that wants to really breastfeed past a year. I'm happy and grateful to do it for a year, and that's probably going to be my plan with Elise. With Cameron, I didn't like say, oh, you're a year old, we're cutting you off. I went till about 14 months, and then he honestly weaned himself, which not surprised, because with everything Cameron does, he just does it on his own time. I don't have to push him, he just does it. With Elise, it could be a little bit more of a struggle, or not a struggle, but she might want to go longer. So I'm going to let her lead it, and we'll see. The next question is, someone had asked the difference, or I guess transition, of going from one child to two children. And for me personally, going from 1 to 2 kids was harder. 0 to 1, when I just had Cameron, I was a stay-at-home mom. I didn't yet have my blog. I didn't have my small shop. So it was just me and Cam, and I was just figuring everything out. And before I had Cameron, I had a few friends who had babies before. And I don't know, for me, I just felt like it was kind of a nice transition. Like, I love being home. I am a super big homebody. So to just kind of be caring for him was not a total shock to my reality, because before that, like, Jeff and I, we love being home, and I wasn't like going out and doing stuff and going crazy like that. So that transition wasn't hard, but obviously physically and emotionally it was hard at times, just because I didn't know what I was doing. But the second time around, I knew more of what I was doing, but I also had gotten in a really, really good rhythm with Cameron, and it was just him and I was home, and I had started my blog, so he napped a lot still, so I was able to do so much work, and we were just in a really good groove. So when Elise came, as much as we were excited and happy, and I wanted her, and nothing should come before her, it was definitely harder, because I wanted to still do everything. I wanted to still be able to do style sessions every week. I wanted to be able to write 4 blog posts a week like I was doing before, and do all my DIYs. And selfishly, I just couldn't. And so I really had to reevaluate the time that I had. And luckily, Cameron did start preschool as we were like bringing Elise into this world. So that obviously was very helpful, and I don't take that for granted. I feel very lucky that I do have this chunk of time every day with just Elise, or when she's napping, to do stuff. But for me, it was definitely harder going from 1 child to 2. So the advice I have is to really focus the time that you have with them when you're not working or you're not having to do stuff, and just soak them in. Don't worry about the laundry. Don't worry about the dishes. Really take that time to just get on the floor and play with them, or watch a movie together. I find that the time that I kind of designate for work, or if you're a mom that works outside of the home, or a parent that works outside of the home, that work time is work time. And as much as it's hard to kind of like separate and compartmentalize your life, it's helpful, because when I'm with the kids, I'm with the kids, and I try to put my phone away, and that's a big thing too. Like putting my phone on the charger, leaving it, and then also having stuff for the bigger kid to do, maybe a special art project or a craft, or giving them a little bit of screen time. Like, I know some people are like, oh, no screen time, but giving them a little bit of that time so you can bond with the baby and you can get some time in with the baby, because it's hard. There's a lot of times when I have Elise in one hand and Cameron in the other, or I'm helping him get to the bathroom and I have her and I have to leave her and she's crying, and that's just the reality of it. Like, they're gonna cry. One's gonna be crying at one point or another, and you can't get to them, or you can't help them right in that moment. So my biggest piece of advice is just be gentle with yourself, and know that every parent out there is going through this same exact thing at one point or another that you are, and you're not alone. So one of the last questions is, somebody had asked about milk supply and if I ever felt like mine was low. And I think that I've been lucky in terms of like feeding the baby and not having to stress too much about how much milk, because I didn't have to like leave and go back to work, or have enough stashed in like to pump and all that. But I will say, when I did have to pump to go away, that was kind of stressful because I felt like I wasn't producing a lot. And basically the only thing that I did was I just drank a lot of water, and I also drank coconut water, which is really hydrating. But I know some of you had suggested, I think it's fenugreek, and so I think there are some supplements and things that you can do to up your milk supply, but I am not well versed in that, so I don't want to give you suggestions that I've not tried myself. But I know there are definitely a lot of moms out there, and one of the groups that I love, that I see a lot of suggestions in that are great, is Lauren McBride's Mama's Unplugged group on Facebook, and it's just a really judgmental free zone, and I get a lot of information there. So there's definitely other moms out there that could probably help and get that back to you. So I asked some of you, and I also asked some of my blogger mama friends to tell me what their favorite part about getting to 6 months was. So it could be pertaining to the baby or just you yourself 6 months postpartum. So I am going to show you guys these now because they're all really great and amazing people, and I am so happy to have this community. I feel so lucky to have this community, and I'm really excited that I get to be on this journey with you guys and be there for you as much as you're there for me. So let's see what these mamas have to say.
My favorite thing 6 month postpartum. This little one will be 6 months on the 22nd. Isn't that funny, little one? Yeah. And it's really just watching her grow and seeing her smile and laugh and do all the milestones.
My favorite part of reaching the 6 month postpartum mark was leaving behind the unpredictable earliest days of having a newborn, and you sort of implement a schedule, and having more structure to your day really just helps your sanity and your confidence as a mom.
Favorite part about getting to 6 months was watching my baby eat and introducing solids, because if you haven't seen a baby eat, that's the cutest thing.
Absolute favorite thing about this 6 month postpartum mark is the return of my confidence. I start to really feel good about who I am as a wife and as a mother and as a woman of faith. I can handle 2 kids. I've got this.
Hi, my name is Morgan, and I have a 5-month-old Lila Lee. I'd have to say my favorite part of this stage is definitely getting to see more of their personality, getting to see what makes them smile and laugh, and getting to see her interact with her 4-year-old sister has been such a joy.
All right, my favorite part as a mom of 4 of hitting the 6 month mark with a baby is probably the combination of their personality starting to really emerge, as well as the fact that I feel like as a mom, we're starting to like kind of come back to life and feel a little more like ourselves, getting some sleep, some of those things. So the 6 month part, I feel like 4 months is sweet, 6 months is sweeter, and everything after that is just magical.
6 months old. Okay, let me think back. Sitting up, chubby, drooling, laughing, full of love, full of life, full of personality. It happens so fast.
My favorite part about 6 months with all of my babies has been how you start to really see a social side of them, the smiles, the giggles, but they aren't mobile yet, and you kind of feel like you have your new rhythm as a family.
Best part of 6 months postpartum is no longer living in survival mode. Those first couple months, it's just you're relying on your own instincts and intuitions, and now you can rely on knowing your baby and their personality to get through the day, and this feels like the new normal.
My absolute favorite part about this point is that we've both settled into a rhythm and gained some independence. Baby girl knows when she wants to sleep, when she wants to eat. She's comfortable in the car, so we're able to go places more, and there's less stress around it.